Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am finally showing you an in-depth tour of my craft room, something you guys have been asking for forever. But here's the thing. This is not one of those picture-perfect, Pinterest-ready, custom cabinetry type of craft rooms. No, it's more of an IKEA, mismatchy, half-organized, lived-in type of situations. I did tidy up just a little bit for you guys, but the organization itself is very true to form. I'm going to show you guys how I organize my supplies in my own perfectly imperfect way, the cozy corners of my craft room that I love, and also share a few budget-friendly storage options along the way. So go ahead and grab a cup of coffee or your beverage of choice. I feel like this might be a longer video than normal. Settle in and enjoy the tour. All right, so we're gonna start off with what is probably the most fun corner of this craft room, which is this Billy bookcase, which is full of all of my stamps, dies, hot foil plates, pretty much all of those like design-oriented things that you use to add the design to your cardstock. All lives in here. And I would like to say that it's all perfectly organized, but it is far from that, but I have tried. By the way, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and apologize up front for the lighting in this video. I have a single window in here, which provides enough natural light for me to work, but anytime I film, it kind of gives a yellow hue and like a weird shadow effect to everything. So that's why you don't normally see my craft room much, but I have a light here. I'm gonna try to do my best to make it manageable, but please accept my apologies. All right, back to the bookshelf. So the way I've organized my supplies is kind of by product type and size. One of the first things you might notice is that I do store pretty much everything in its original packaging. I do have a few storage envelopes with like magnetic sheets in it, which I do love, but I find that they are incredibly expensive, and I have so many supplies that if I were to buy storage envelopes, especially with magnets for all of them, I would probably go into debt. So I tend to just keep everything in its original packaging. And honestly, you might as well use the packaging until it wears out anyway. It at least makes me feel a little bit better about the impact that this craft has on the environment, if I can at least get a lot of uses out of those single-use plastics. Now, when it comes to storing, I pretty much just throw everything into these little bins. So I have these little white bins. I think some of them are from IKEA and some of them I picked up from Target. No. Some are from IKEA and some are from the Container Store, which I love the Container Store. The Container Store, if you're listening, call me. And I believe these woven baskets also came from the Container Store. I will do my best to link anything that I can in the description of this video. So if you see something around storage that you might like, I'll try to leave it down in the description box below if I can find it. So on this top shelf up here, we have stamps, which includes all of my clear stamps as well as my red rubber cling stamps. And I have these organized by size. So these two white bins here on the left and the right are kind of my smaller, what are these, like 4x6 stamp sets? Yes, 4x6 stamp sets. And then in the larger woven basket are my larger like 8x10 stamp sets, as well as my 6x6 red rubber cling background stamps. Now, I will say that this woven basket is bursting at the seams. I don't think I have room for one more stamp. And you'll notice that's kind of a theme as I move down here. For instance, you can already see this big chunk of stuff that doesn't have a home. So I am running out of space, but you know what? It's fine. It keeps me from overbuying. Now, I should mention, these are all stamps that don't have coordinating dies, so that's kind of how they make it onto the shelf. They're stamp sets that don't have coordinating dies. Moving down, we have another row, and this is all dies. So similar kind of thing here. I have my smaller die sets here on the left and the right, and then my larger die sets are all in the middle here in this woven basket. Now, I will say I tried to do some extra organizing about 4 or 5 months ago, and I went through my dies as well as my stamps with coordinating dies and kind of categorized them into different themes. And literally all I did was I just wrote the theme on a piece of long cardstock and stuck it in the bin, and then just organized the dies where they belong with those cardstock dividers. Super, super low budget and not an elegant way to organize them, but it works. Although I will say I probably need taller pieces of cardstock because a lot of times I can't see the dividers, but you know what? It's better than it was, 6 months ago. So there's that. Before we dive any further into the depths of my craft room, I want to tell you just a little bit about the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes tailor-made for creatives and curious people just like yourself. They have world-class creatives and experts teaching classes among a variety of topics such as illustration, design, photography, running a creative business, and so much more. As many of you know, I picked up journaling recently as a side hobby, and I was thrilled to learn that Skillshare even had classes on that. Recently, I've been taking Dylan Merzlinski's class on illustrated journaling, which encourages the cultivation of a low-pressure journaling practice by way of 14 days of illustrated journal prompts. When it comes to journaling, I'm really good about the writing part and adding stamps and ephemera and all of my other crafty goodies, but I get really in my head when it comes to illustrating and drawing pictures, which is something that I'd like to do more of in a lot of capacities. Dylan's class has been a really great way for me to get out of my head and view illustrating as a way to document my everyday life and memories, and less like a performance and like I'm making an art piece for other people to view. If you're interested in giving Skillshare a try, the folks over at Skillshare have given me a very special offer just for you guys. The first 500 people that use the link down below to join Skillshare get a free month, and you can take a lot of classes in a month. Thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. All right, moving down to the third shelf, as you might have already guessed it, we have stamps with coordinating dies. So if I do have a stamp set that I also have coordinating dies for, I try my best to keep those together. Otherwise, I will forget that they have coordinating supplies and I'll never use them. So down here we have the same thing, smaller stamps with dies, smaller stamps with dies, and then larger stamps with dies. And you'll probably notice that this top section is the most aesthetic, and I did that on purpose because when I bought this Billy bookcase, I really wanted to add the door simply because I felt like it makes it look a little bit more elevated and nice in here. But I specifically bought ones that only had glass on the top half because I knew every shelf wouldn't look great. But this top half, I walk in and I don't know, it sparks joy. I like it. So I don't know, I like it. All that to say. Let's go ahead and move down to the fourth shelf. But before we do that, I should mention that all of the furniture pieces you see in here, except for one, which I'll point out, are from IKEA. Whenever I was designing this craft room, I knew that I wasn't gonna get super fancy and do like custom cabinetry or anything like that, even if I had the budget. I honestly just took the dimensions of this room, went to IKEA, bought some stuff that I thought would fit, and thankfully it did. But all that to say, all the furniture in here, super budget friendly. I think I maybe spent, I don't know, $500, maybe $600 on all of the furniture. I don't know. I'll try to tally that up and give you the total when I go to edit this video. Now let's move on to the fourth shelf. All right, so down here in the bottom, things get a little bit more eclectic in the way that they're organized. To the left here, we have my big box of stencils. This is honestly probably my favorite collection. I don't know, I just have a thing for stencils, and I did organize those by theme and category as well. Unfortunately, they have not stayed categorized. I don't know, I have a habit of just coming in here and shoving whatever stencil I last used here in the front, but you know what? It's fine. And I find that if I'm constantly plundering through my supplies, I also have a good idea of what I have on hand at all times. So it's a little bit of a win-win. Well, not win-win, maybe lose-win, but not a total lose. And these two guys are used for embossing folders. This would probably be the primary embossing folder bin. You can see that I have 3D embossing folders, 2D embossing folders, all just kind of mashed in here together. And then to the left, I have a little bit of like an embossing folder overflow zone. This also holds my 6x6 embossing folders, which Altenew is a big fan of making these 6x6 embossing folders, which unfortunately don't fit very well in these bins that I like to use. So that's why they're kind of sitting here to the side. I also have a few other random things in here. For instance, I have hero transfers, and I also have some sentiment strips that are already printed. Things like that that don't necessarily have a dedicated home, but I know that I'll be reaching for them at some point. Then over here, I have what is probably my smallest collection out of all of these, which are my hot foil plates. It's a smaller collection because I don't know, hot foil plates are expensive, y'all, and also a little bit of a pain to use. But the hot foil plates that I do have all live here, and I also have quite a few different colors of foil stuffed in here as well. All right, and that brings us to the fifth shelf. Things continue to get more eclectic. Although, honestly, looking at this, I'm realizing that this is actually pretty well organized. This is probably the most organized part of my room. So I'm gonna go ahead and give myself a little pat on the back for that. But over here we have a clear bin, and this is full of just Ralph Tyndall Designs products. These are products that I made in collaboration with Hero Arts, specifically the spring release. I actually have the fall release stored in this closet behind me, but those are just all in their own dedicated bin. I don't know why, I just wanted them to have their own space. And then to the right of that, we have a bin of old completed cards. So these are cards, I like to refer to this as kind of the card graveyard, actually, because most of these are not cards that I would give away, because they're cards that I made a long time ago that, and I know, I'm being hard on myself, y'all tell me not to be hard on myself, but these are cards that I wouldn't necessarily give away because they have mistakes or I'm not proud of them or whatever, but I still can't get rid of them. I don't know, maybe that's the crafting hoarder in me, but those are there. Right here in the middle, I have a teal binder from Sizzix that is meant to store dies. So it has these little envelopes in here with magnetic sheets that you can put in here like a binder. As you can see, I don't really use it. I do think that it's a nifty idea. I just haven't found it. I don't know. I don't find myself reaching for it or storing things in there. I kind of like things to be a little bit more visible and accessible, but if that's your jam, could be a good way to go. Moving on to the right of that, this bin is actually full of kits. So these are primarily kits of products that aren't just a coordinating stamp or a coordinating die. It might have a coordinating stamp, die, stencil, hot foil, maybe stickers, whatever, but they're products that work together that I don't want to split up because I want them to stay together. If I split them up, I know that I will inevitably forget that I have the corresponding parts or lose them, and then I'll never use them. And frankly, also, I just started putting things in here when I was running out of room up top, but this is the kit bin. All right, now the last bin on this shelf is more cards, but these are cards that are a little bit more recent and cards that I am more proud of. So this is actually the bin that I turn to whenever I'm looking for cards last minute. And I actually have more of these, but they're in the other room. I probably have 3 or 4 of these bins or boxes full of cards that I like to go and plunder through. And anytime that I need to give a card to someone in my personal life and I don't have time to make one or don't want to make one, I will just go to this bin and find one or give them to people, whatever. This is just where all of my cards end up. Okay, now this very bottom shelf has 2 larger bins because they hold a lot of stuff. This bin over here to the right is actually all, well not all, but most of, at least the stuff that I could find. This is all of my Christmas supplies, so Christmas stamps, Christmas embossing folders, Christmas dies. Anything in that Christmas realm I have dedicated to this box. And that's simply because I found that I had a lot of Christmas stuff, and when I had it scattered in all of these other bins, it was taking up a lot of space and I wasn't using them most of the year because it wasn't Christmas. So I decided to just give them their own dedicated bin. And then when the Christmas season rolls around, I can just bring that out and I don't have to plunder through everything trying to find the Christmas stuff. Does that make sense? And then over here on the very left, this is just kind of a hodgepodge of stuff. I have a lot of thread in here. I also have little rings and ribbons, and I have supplies to make paper. I was planning to do a video where I'm gonna make my own homemade paper and then make cards out of it. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. I've had the supplies for a while and just haven't done it. But this is kind of like a catch-all for miscellaneous crafting stuff that is not directly related to card making. And it's definitely overflowing. I probably need to find a better space for it, but that's where she lives. All right, I realized that this large bookcase was kind of a lot to cover right off the bat, but this is, I don't know, I feel like this unit is like the heart and soul of this craft room. This is where I go to get inspired and look through my supplies and think of ideas and what I want to make. And so this is probably like my pride and joy, if you will. That being said, if you do have ideas of how I can organize all of this better, preferably that's low effort, do let me know, but let's keep moving around the room. Oh, and then I guess I should mention, this is a closet back here. I probably won't show you, well, I don't know, maybe I'll insert some footage of the closet. This closet is primarily personal stuff, so like overflow clothes for the winter, luggage, odds and ends around the house. It's really not super crafting focused. One of my goals actually has been to turn this into a craft closet, but then I don't know what I would do with all of the stuff that's already in there. So right now it's just kind of extra storage that has nothing to do with the craft room. And then I do find that I often put tote bags up here. Right now I have this tote bag. This was from YouTube from an event that I did, but I don't know why, I just always end up putting tote bags there. But let's move on. All right, so over here, just directly to the left of our Billy bookcase where all of my stamps, dies, stencils, etc. is stored, we have the spot where the magic really happens, which is my craft desk. Right here at this very desk is where I create and design literally every card you see me post. It happens right here. Now, I actually have two desks in this room. I have my craft desk here and my computer desk over on the other side of the room. You'll see that in just a moment. But this is where I spend a good majority of my time. So let's break it down, shall we? This craft desk is also from IKEA. Down here supporting the desk, we have a set of Kallax drawers. And then on top is just a regular old tabletop you can get from IKEA with a couple of legs over on the right-hand side. On top of the desk, I have my magnetic glass craft mat, which if you've been following me for any time at all, you know, is one of my prized possessions in my craft room. So this is of course front and center. And then everything else, the drawers, the pegboard, the stuff on top, is basically stuff that I reach for all of the time. Let's start with the pegboard. The pegboard is from the Container Store, and I love pegboards. If you have the space for it and you've never thought of getting one, I think it's so worth it. Being able to have your most used supplies just in arm's reach here is everything. And the fact that it's not taking up desk space is even more, because here's the thing about me. I don't like a lot of stuff on my desk, which you may not be able to tell from what I'm showing you right now, but I create such a mess when I'm crafting that I don't really need extra stuff on my desk that I'm not using in that moment. So pegboards are really good for getting your stuff up and off the desk. Now, what do I have on my pegboard? Good question. Honestly, kind of a hodgepodge mess of things. I do have this shelf up here where I always like to keep at least one card on display that I've made recently. Right now I actually have 3 cards up here, but I find that having a card on display where I'm crafting just keeps me feeling motivated and inspired, so I like to do that. Down here I have another little shelf which really has a hodgepodge of things. I always keep my sprayer up here for quickly cleaning off my mat or my stamps. I also have a little bit of stamp cleaner. I have some extra glue, a couple things of glue actually. I have some little pins that I can use to help unclog the fine tips on my glue. And this doesn't need to be here. This is some type of spray thing. And then I also have my little Cricut. This isn't a brayer, I guess it's like a scraper. And I find that this comes in handy more often than I would think. So I like to just have that close by as well. Now the other things that I keep up here are foam adhesive and double-sided tape. These are in rolls, which I find are kind of awkward to store. But putting them on a pegboard, especially on one of these hanging hooks like this, I find to be just such a great, easy way to keep them within reach. And I'm using those on pretty much every project I ever make. So I like to have those within arm's reach. Over here on the right side, I actually have some of my nesting dies. I used to have my nesting rectangles up here as well, but those are actually in my filming studio now, which, by the way, this is my crafting room where I do all of my crafting and ideating and creating, but I actually have another room next door where I do all of my filming for YouTube. That is a very new development. It used to all be in this room, but let me know if you want to see that in a future video as well. Anyway, as I was saying, these are my nesting dies. So these are just dies that I find I'm reaching for a lot, or at least I used to. I actually don't use these that often anymore, so maybe I'll swap those out. But I find that it's nice just to have them on a sheet, easy to grab. Any dies that you use a lot might be something to consider. And then up top here, this is just a little holder, a cup, if you will, full of different pens and pencils. And I think I usually keep my weeder up here. Is that what you call this? A weeder that you use with your Cricut? I also have my fan brush, just a bunch of random writing tools and brushes and things that I find I'm reaching for often. And then just to add a little bit of personality, I have a few me things up here as well. A little Austin magnet. This is a sticker of a penguin that my friend Jilly illustrated and gave me. I also have this sticker that says "Y'all means all," which I think is really cute. And then these are a couple of badges from different events. This is a YouTube badge that I got from a YouTube event, and this is one that I got from an event with Facebook. Just you know, little memory keeping things. But now let's talk about the desk itself. I don't like to keep a ton of stuff on my desk, but one of the most important things that I do keep here are my Hero Arts blending brushes. I have them in a variety of sizes here, just in easy reach, because I do a lot of stenciling and ink blending, and I have them in these nifty little holders here. You can actually get these from all over the place. They sell them in a million different places. I'll leave them linked down below. Then moving over to the left side of my desk, I have my die cutting machine. I actually have two die cutting machines that I like to use kind of interchangeably. I typically keep the Spellbinders Platinum 6 here on this desk, and then I will use my Sizzix Big Shot when I'm actually filming. And then this little file folder system situation actually is just full of junk. I kind of need to go through that. There's an air tag in there. I can see also some random, what is it, some glitter paper? Yeah, glitter paper. I need to organize some of that stuff. I think there's mail sitting in there that I've had since probably 2023. Then over to the right-hand corner of the desk, this is an odd collection of things. I do have some isopropyl alcohol here just because I find that useful whenever I'm cleaning various supplies or my glass craft mat. And then the rest of the stuff probably shouldn't be here. I have this little trinket dish that I got the other day from a sale. And then the last thing I'll point out is this Focus on the Good paperweight. This is actually the first and probably, I think, only decorative item I actually bought for this space. It's funny because I don't even necessarily resonate with the artwork, but I just loved the phrase, focus on the good. And I was going through a period of my life where that felt really important and resonant to me. So I bought it, and it's just kind of lived on this desk ever since. Okay, now let's move on to the more fun part, which are the drawers. Okay, I will be the first to admit that these drawers are a complete total mess, at least the top one is, and these were actually really well organized at one time, I promise. They still have a bit of a system, but the boundaries have been stretched, if you will. Now, I'm giving you a warning right now, do not let this top drawer scare you. This is my drawer that holds literally all of my most used everyday supplies, and it looks kind of like a junk drawer, but I promise, I know everything that's in here. Like I said, this holds all of my everyday necessities. We have scissors, we have a stamp block, we have anti-static powder, tape runner, mint tape, black ink, a bunch of tweezers, bone folder, corner rounder. I mean, it's literally just everything that you would want to use on a card, all of your little pokey tools, etc. It all lives in here, and it looks like organized chaos, but it's never let me down. All right, now the second drawer was originally to store my ink cubes, but I don't use ink cubes that often, so this drawer has kind of evolved into more of an embellishments drawer, which, if anyone ever tells you that you need ink cubes and full-size ink pads, I wouldn't listen to them. There are two reasons I would suggest getting ink cubes over full-size ink pads, and that is one, if you have budget concerns or space concerns, ink cubes might be the way to go. They take up less space, they're less costly. Or if you're traveling around with your crafting supplies a lot, if you like to go to workshops and classes and events and you want to bring your supplies with you, ink cubes would be better for that. But otherwise, you don't really need both. So anyway, I'm going on a tangent. But in here, we have all of my embellishments. I have just, you know, sequins and glitter, photopolymer, shaker stuff, as well as a bunch of sequins that I ordered off of Amazon once upon a time. I will point out though, and I have to remove all of my embellishments to show it to you, but I made this once upon a time, probably 2 years ago now, but I made this, like made the file, cut it out, everything. This is made out of a maple wood veneered plywood, something like that. But this stores all of my Distress Ink mini cubes, which I thought at the time, again, I wasn't as into crafting, I didn't have all the full-size ink pads. I thought, how great would it be to have this drawer just next to me that I can go in here and grab whatever color ink I want. Now, since then, it's been covered by embellishments, but that still gives me a little serotonin hit every time I see it. If you're interested in making your own, I made this with a laser cutting machine, a Glowforge. I'll leave the SVG file down below. If you happen to have a laser machine and you want to make one, have at it. All right, moving on to drawer number 3, we have a very important, one of my most used drawers, and that's because this holds a lot of my most used larger items. So things like my Score Buddy, my Misty, my mini guillotine trimmer, my Sizzix Sidekick. I actually use this a lot. I have my heat embossing gun in here, I have a cutting mat in here for whenever I want to use my X-Acto knife, and I have another paper trimmer, and then it looks like just a lot of random scraps that probably need to get cleaned out of here, and a roll of Scotch tape. And that's pretty much it for this drawer. This is like not super full, but it's because all the tools are kind of large and need room to breathe to get to because I use them a lot. But this is a very important drawer for me. All right, drawer number 4. I don't even, oh, okay. Yeah, so this is embossing powder. So I have 2 of these. This is just a little plastic tub full of various embossing powders. This is another one. And then this is actually where a lot of my ink cubes have gone. Remember, I was using the second drawer for all of my ink cubes, but now down here I have all of my ink cubes stored in these little tins that typically your distress ink cubes would come in. So these are other brands. I have a few Altenew ones, Gina K. I think that's actually it for the cubes. And then I do also have some Catherine Pooler mini inks. Hers don't come in cubes, but these are her mini versions. I actually love Catherine Pooler ink. I don't use it as often as I should, but she makes great ink. And then I also have little watercolor pencils here. Clearly I haven't really used them. This one's unopened. They're all kind of unused. I don't know, watercolor scares me, guys. And then this is a bag of glitter pens, glitter brush pens to be exact. Scrapbook.com actually came out with these, it's probably been a while now, over a year ago probably. But these are actually really cool. They're brush pens, kind of like a marker, but they're like a translucent, glittery type situation. So you can use them to kind of adorn your card with, to give them a little bit of sparkle and shine. And they come in different colors. So like we have a yellow one, dark blue, light blue. And so I have a whole bag of those in various colors. And then of course, just a good old fashioned box of Crayola colored pencils. So I guess I would categorize this drawer as colorful things. I don't know, sure, why not? Final drawer. Down here, this is more of like the mixed media type drawer, if you will. So we have a lot of pastes and things. We have a lot of pops of colors from scrapbook.com, distress grit paste, a few different Sizzix mediums, also some hero paste. And then in the back here, we actually have a lot of used cutting plates. I don't know, I have this thing where I can't get rid of cutting plates. I don't know, it feels very wasteful. And I'm also convinced that I'm always going to come back around and use them again. So there's just a stack of used cutting plates back there. And then a few other odds and ends. We have some markers. I have this random yogurt cup, which I actually use this a lot of times to mix paste in. Like if I want to put some white paste and then add some dye ink to it, mix it up to change the color of the paste. That's what I usually use this for. We've got a couple of palette knives, of course. I also have a bunch of palette knives in this drawer. I don't know, it is what it is. But yeah, and then we have our splatter ink. So these are 2 acrylic inks that I use a lot for splattering on my cards. I have a white one and a black one. But yeah, this is all just kind of like mixed media goodness, if you will. And that's it, at least for these drawers, so let's move on. All right, so continuing to move our way down this wall, we come to this third piece of furniture, which I'm not gonna pretend to know how to pronounce or remember the name of this furniture piece. It's from IKEA, but it's essentially a dresser, but it also has this little shelf situation. Honestly, not my favorite piece of furniture. I find the drawers to be a little bit awkward, and I really just bought it because it fit perfectly in this little gap between the desk and the wall. And you know, it does what needs to be done, but I don't love it. Anyway, up top here, you can see that we have ink storage, and you'll see by the end of this video, I have a lot of ink storage. So these are 2 different ink storage units from Stampin' Storage. I really love these. They are built like bricks. I mean, they're so well made, so sturdy, very heavy. So I don't know, it just feels like a very nice way to store your inks, and I like to be able to see all of them and come over here and just grab whatever I need. Up top I have all of my Hero Arts inks. Down below I have all of my Simon Says stamp inks. And yes, this is more ink than anyone needs. But keep in mind, I do this for my job, and a lot of things, not everything, but a lot of things, especially when I was first starting out, were sent to me. I'll leave the link down below to these ink storage units. I have a couple more on the other side that I'll show you in a second as well. The only thing that I will mention is Stamp & Storage is a Christian-run company, and they will probably include a pamphlet with the gospel and a bunch of Bible verses in it. If that's not your thing, just want you to know. But their products in general are really great. Now, moving down below, we have my lovely, lovely printer. I actually bought this printer originally because I needed it for a single project, and I thought that it would be such a waste, but I use this printer all of the time. One of my favorite things recently has been to print out photos and images of various characters or scenes or whatever and making them into cards. I didn't think that it's something that I would do that often, but I really love it. And people always ask me how my images are so crisp, and honestly, I don't know. I literally Googled one day best printer for crafters, and this one came up. I'll leave it linked down below in the description. Honestly, it wasn't that expensive in terms of printers. My only qualm is that it's a little large. I really wanted a smaller printer, but I love that this one I can feed paper in from the back or from the top or from the bottom. There's 3 different feed options, and it also does 12 by 12 paper. So if you're a scrapbooker, pretty great. Oh, and on top of that, I have my mini printer. So this is a little miniature printer that I got not too long ago. I picked this up whenever I started journaling. So I've started also printing out pictures on the go and just including them in my journal spread so that I can document memories and, you know, remember fun times that were had. So this is just a little miniature printer that I can throw in my backpack and take with me on the go. I'll leave that linked down below as well. But then as far as everything else up here, it's kind of random. I have a bunch of like papers and ink labels, and I see some like tax stuff that I probably need to file away. I also have this piece of artwork that I have yet to frame. So honestly, just a bunch of random things. Over here on the right-hand side, I have my re-inkers, which I actually don't own a ton of re-inkers. But in here I have some of my Distress Oxide re-inkers, Altenew re-inkers, things like that. And I think that's it. Then up here I also have my Barely Art liquid glue refill. Anytime I need to refill my little tiny miniature glue bottles, it comes from here. And then I have a few other ink pads and things that just didn't have space. Now let's get to these drawers, which are a bit of a mess, but this is where I store most, not all, but most of my papers. So these drawers, to be fully honest, were a lot more organized at one time, and I've just kept adding things to them. And so they're a little out of control. Originally, this top drawer was intended to be my like everyday papers, so like my white heavy-weighted cardstock for my card bases, and I don't even keep that in here anymore. It's actually on the floor over there, which I'll show you in a second. Instead, I have a lot of like specialty papers in here. For instance, I have this matte gold cardstock from Simon Says Stamp, some, what is that, like a rainbow holographic paper, some more holographic paper. I have a pad of watercolor paper. Oh my gosh, and what else is falling out? This is like, what do they call this? Color blend cardstock. It's like ombre colored cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. So just a lot of like specialty papers, if you will. Mixed media paper. And I also tend to keep extra ink in here for my printer. Anytime I need ink, that's where that is. And yeah, just honestly a lot of like specialty cardstock. Now, down here in my second larger drawer, this is less specialty cardstock and more so just typical large solid cardstock. Emphasis on the large. So I have 2 cases in here that hold 12 by 12 paper pads. If you're a card maker and not a scrapbooker, I would never recommend you buy 12 by 12 papers. These 2 cases are full of 12 by 12 paper packs that I bought literally the first like 3 months I started card making, and I just don't use them. I find them so impractical, so hard to store. Maybe that's just a me thing, but I don't recommend it. I also have my acetate in here. I have some other cardstock. It's just honestly a plethora of cardstock. Most of it is medium weighted, like 80-ish pounds. And so anytime I need solid, not super heavyweight cardstock, I go to this drawer. And now for the final drawer, this is a little bit of a catch-all slash junk drawer, but in bigger form. Honestly, I probably need to figure out something better to do with this. But this, for whatever reason, my photo paper's down here, which I use a lot, something is stuck to the back. Oh, this is my transfer tape for my Cricut. I also have a bunch of Cricut vinyl in here. There's a white one, got a red one, a few other colors. And then I've also put a bunch of cords and cables and things for like cameras and chargers and stuff like that. Oh, there's a magazine in here. This is Simply Cards and Papercraft magazine. A couple of years ago, they did a cute little spread on me. Isn't that fun? And I've never, I don't, you know, I'm, no offense, but I'm a little too young to do the magazine thing, so this is the only paper crafting magazine I owned, but I thought that it would be cool to own since I was in it. And then I also have a bunch of different size grip mats, more Cricut stuff. Oh, a label printer. I don't know if you noticed, but my stamp and die bins over in my Billy bookcase, they all had little labels on it that said like stamps or stamps and dies or dies. I made all of those using this label printer. It's technically from the Container Store, but I actually got this from the Austin Creative Reuse store, I think for $5. If you're not familiar with that, it's like a thrift store for craft supplies. So that was a score. But yeah, this is just full of kind of random things that I need occasionally, but not super often. All right, I'm not going to set up the tripod for this one because there's really not that much to talk about. So this is the second desk that I was telling you about, and this is where I do all of my computer work. Currently my laptop is not there, but usually my laptop would be sitting there right in front of the two monitors. And this is an electric stand-up desk. This is also where I film all of my ASMR TikToks and Reels. Still to this day, I film them here in this room, even though all of my YouTube content gets filmed in the other room. But that means this desk is also where I take any meetings that I have. I do therapy, hence the reason there is a box of tissues here. Also a fidget toy. I am a fidgeter when I'm on therapy or meetings or things like that. I also have some new products sitting here. So these are like stamps and dies and things that I've ordered that I just haven't put into storage yet. I also have like a little half-done project here. That's because a lot of times I will also, well, not a lot of times, all the times, I will do my lives from here as well over on TikTok. So that's a project I was working on one of my TikTok lives that I didn't finish. And then down below, we have a bunch of wires and then a little standing mat, which I don't use, but what I do use are my Crocs, which are right next to that. Whenever I am filming or going live and standing for a long period of time, I like to be in my Crocs. But yeah, there's really not much to it. And then up top here, I do have a mount coming down from the ceiling. I get that question a lot. How do I film my ASMR videos? And the answer is, I have a mount from the ceiling, which I realize is a little crazy. And then you don't see it right now, but whenever I am filming here, I do typically have a bunch of lights all around this desk. For now, I just have that one little lonely ring light. Oh, and on the edge of my window over here, for some reason, these are all my magnets for my magnetic glass board. I don't know why, I've just stuck them up there. No real reason. All right, so just to the left of my editing desk, we have the next very large area of craft storage in this room, and that is my 2x8 square Kallax unit from IKEA. This unit brings me so much joy when I look at it. Yes, I love my stamps and my dies and my stencil over my Billy bookcase, but just looking at this, it just makes me so happy. This is probably the most organized area of my craft room, and that's because I have a lot of these organization units here inside of my Kallax unit, as well as on top, and that all holds my ink, my cardstock, and my markers. Now up here on top we have my distress ink, which is stored in another one of those Stampin' Storage ink storage units like you saw on the other side of my room. And I use my distress inks probably the most out of any of my ink pads, so it does seem a little silly that I have all of this stuff here on top, but I don't know, y'all. Eventually you start running out of space, but let me go ahead and move some of this out of the way. Now this bag in particular is actually fairly new. So this is a little tote bag from Paper and Pencil, which is the cutest little stationery store in Chicago. And I actually have it full of journaling supplies. So this includes journals, notepads, pens, stickers, things that I would use to journal with. As I mentioned in my last video, I've really gotten into journaling lately, and it's primarily things that I wouldn't use for card making, so I have them in their own designated little bag for now. And then this is a little spinning storage unit thing I think I got from Target years ago. Honestly, I have a love-hate relationship with these little spinning storage things. I don't find that they're really that helpful, and they take up a lot of real estate, but I will say I like that this one you can take the little pieces out. But it's kind of become a catch-all. It has a battery charger. This is a case for my microphone. Has some Copic markers, which if you follow me, you know that I'm not a huge fan of Copic. But anyway, here we have my Distress inks. We also have Altenew inks over here in the little round ink pads. And then moving down from the ink, we have more ink. So this is my Distress Oxide ink collection, and it's in a spinning organizer. This is also from Stamp and Storage, but I love how this one just spins around. It's so fun to play with and such a unique, helpful way to store your ink pads. Then to the right of that, we have 2 stacks of cardstock. This is my 8.5 by 11 heavy weighted cardstock, so about 110 pounds and above. And these are all from Hero Arts. I actually don't know if they still make this cardstock ever since Spellbinders acquired them. I know that Spellbinders recently came out with their own line of cardstock, and I think maybe they're folding them into each other. I don't know, I could be totally misspeaking on that, so don't quote me. But that's my cardstock. And then over here to the right, I have some more neutral colored cardstock. So I have like creams and craft. I think I also have acetate and vellum over there. And then also some brown, just some natural colors that I couldn't fit in the other 2 vertical units. By the way, I'm actually thinking about starting to collect a different line of cardstock. I do really like the Hero Arts cardstock, but like I said, I don't know if they're gonna keep making it. And I find the colors to be a little bit more muted than I would like. I think I'm looking for something that's a little bit more vibrant, if that makes sense. So if you have cardstock suggestions, let me know, preferably heavyweight. I'm not looking for medium weight cardstock. I've got enough of that. Okay, let's keep moving down. So remember how I was telling you about how the ink storage from Stamp and Storage is pretty expensive? By the way, they are also the ones who make this paper storage. Again, super high quality, super sturdy, cannot recommend them enough. But I am happy to report that this marker storage I actually got off of Amazon. I think I paid maybe $25. Don't quote me, I'll leave it linked down below, but maybe $25 for this, and then maybe another $20 for this one. And honestly, I have no complaints. These 2 units store all of my Ohuhu markers, all 320 of them, as well as a few more Copic markers down here below. If you are in the market for marker storage, I do highly recommend these, but I will warn you that they actually are made of foam core, which is why they're a lot cheaper versus heavy wood, which is what these are made out of. The foam core is really light, but it's a little tricky to assemble. I would just say that when you get it in the mail and you go to assemble it, use a delicate touch, because if you don't, the foam core can break. Luckily, they send you a few extra dividers, so if you do happen to break one, you're fine. But just something to keep in mind. But I will say, once they're assembled and in your unit, I've found them to be very sturdy, and I haven't had any concerns. Now, next to my markers over here, I have my 2 Cricut machines, my Cricut Joy, my Cricut Joy Extra, as well as all of my extra cutting mats. And then below that, we have paper pads, mostly from scrapbook.com. I have one of those clear containers full of solid colored paper packs from scrapbook.com. And then I have another clear container full of pattern paper. I unfortunately don't use pattern paper as often as I should or would like to, so this bin is kind of overflowing a lot, but these are all primarily paper pads. By the way, if you're not familiar with scrapbook.com's paper pads, I actually highly recommend them for beginner paper crafters. They sell them in 2 different sizes, and one of my favorite things is that the smaller size paper pad actually comes in 4¼ by 5.5 inch sheets. So perfect for card making. It'll take up a full A2 size panel. They have these larger 6 by 8 inch packs as well, which are also great. But the thing that is really great about these, especially if you're new and perhaps intimidated by color, is they sell a lot of these in pairs. They have a solid version and a patterned paper version. So for instance, you can buy a paper pack of solids, and then they have a corresponding paper pack full of different patterns that use the same colors that you see in the solid paper pack, so you can easily use those two packs together without worrying about whether or not your colors are going to coordinate, because you know they will. These were an absolute lifesaver for me as a new card maker, so I love to just let people know that. If they've not looked into the scrapbook.com paper packs, you're new to card making, you're a little fearful of color, highly recommend. But just know that they're not solid core. That's my only minor complaint. Okay, moving over to these two units. These are purely junk drawers, except none of it's really junk, but it's just miscellaneous things that don't have space elsewhere. These both also came from IKEA, although I do not believe they sell them anymore. When I bought them, they were on clearance, and I think it's because they stopped making them. But they're really nice and sturdy. They're made of metal, and I keep a lot of larger miscellaneous supplies in here. For instance, in this top one, I have my little mini heat press, I have my Glimmer hot foil machine, hot glue gun, a lot of wires, and just random miscellaneous tools. In this bottom one, I have more miscellaneous supplies. I have my envelope punch board, which I should use more of. I have this little mini laser square as well, which, to be honest, was a complete waste of money. Do not recommend. And then I have a lot of storage envelopes in here that I haven't actually used and put things into them yet. I should probably get on that. And then it looks like I also have like a wax seal gun, kind of similar to a glue gun, except you're squirting out hot liquid wax for wax seals. Oh, and by the way, guys, over here next to my Kallax unit, I have my Tim Holtz rotary trimmer. And guys, if you have not used this, it is amazing. It cuts through pretty much anything. You can do multiple layers of cardstock, cardboard, chipboard. It's a beast. It is a little bit large, so it's awkward to store, which is why it's just sitting in the corner over here, but don't be fooled. I actually use that quite a lot. And then last but not least, right next to me, this little plastic craft cart holds a very special place in my heart because this was my craft room at one time. This held all of my craft supplies. Today it's become a little bit of a monster. Once I moved into my craft room here, I took out all of the most used stuff and found new homes for it. But I still do store a few things in here, and it looks completely chaotic, but I do know what I'm looking for when I go in here. Perhaps more importantly, it holds a lot of paper scraps. All of my paper scraps go here. I have a drawer for my colored paper scraps. I have a drawer for my white paper scraps. And then I also have a lot of like ink blending stuff in here. For instance, all of my foam domed ink blending tools are over here. It's a complete mess. I just have them all piled up in a drawer together. I really need to organize those into a binder or something. I also have a lot of mini ink blending brushes, some overflow embossing powders that I don't use as often. Just a lot of random odds and ends. I honestly should probably get rid of this cart just to free up some space in here. It might be deceiving on camera, but this is a tiny room. But I don't know. It holds a very special place in my heart, so I think I'd have a hard time parting with it. Let me know what your first craft situation was like. Did you have all of your supplies in a box, in a drawer somewhere, a certain armoire? I'm curious. Let me know where you started out and where you've ended with your crafting hoard.